Education is your problem. What's up, folks? This is Justin Garcia, a.k.a. Master Chim, and I'm with the white problem. Patrick Kelly, white boy Pat.
What's up?
Welcome to another episode of the Pressure Project Podcast. The Pressure Project Podcast.
Yes.
What do the actors say?
What? Tip of the tongue, top of the teeth? How now, brown cow?
The Pressure Project Podcast. Say it fast.
The Pressure Project Podcast.
All right, not bad. All right, so today we're going to be doing an education episode, not a homeschool episode. You know, I am an avid homeschooler, as is Pat.
Yes.
You do know, listeners, power players, you do know that I've written a book called Finding a Way to Homeschool. And I guess today is going to be pretty much a kick in the ass, a push on the back, a vote of confidence, if you will.
Nice.
To try to empower you guys to realize, and this isn't only for kids. I mean, this is for you as well. All these things are universal.
Yeah.
You know, they're probably most valuable, when dealing with your kids. But I would say, beyond that, worrying about these things as they pertain to you is an important thing. Let's start off with I've already started off, but our website. What's our website? You do it.
Okay.
Cracker.
Our website is www.thepressureproject.com. What? You don't say www?
You know damn well I don't say it because it sounds retarded.
It sounds weird. Our website
if you don't write it, will it still go to our website?
Yeah.
Okay, just check. Okay, just check it.
So our website is thepressureproject.com. Info@thepressureproject.com is our email address. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/thepressureproject. And what else? Live stream. You want to go on live stream and find us. We're the Pressure Project on live stream. Sign up there so you can become a follower and get updates when we go live and do live events.
Oh, what else did I just sign up to? The Twitcher. Twitcher. I think it's called Twitcher. Okay. It's what I do. I started playing Call of Duty.
Oh, okay.
And doing the videos. So
yeah,
it's the Pressure Project also on Twitcher.
Cool.
So if you guys don't know what Twitcher is, which most people don't worry about it. If you know, then you know.
I don't know what the
Pressure Project. Yeah, you can see me playing Call of Duty and shit.
It was pretty cool.
So all right. So I'm going to start with a quote. Now, anybody that knows me, anybody that's discussed this with me, anybody that's listened to, it might have been like episode 3, I think.
What? Schooling is bullshit?
Schooling is bullshit.
Yeah, it was an early episode.
It might be episode 3 or 4. But you know that John Taylor Gatto is my guy.
Yeah.
I have not yet had the pleasure of meeting him. I do not think he gives many public talks now. A few years back, I know he had a stroke. But John Taylor Gatto is a former New York City school teacher. He Teacher of the Year, I think, twice for the city, once for the state. Taught for 30 years, and when he retired, pretty much started his second career, which was condemning his first.
Destroying his first career.
Yeah, and he is the guy who lets parents know exactly how you should be teaching your children, which is very much in line with what I say. People always ask me, what's the best way to teach your kids? What's the best way to homeschool? And I say, get out of their way.
Correct.
Get out of their way. And with John Taylor Gatto, in addition to being such an incredible educator and a wonderful, wonderful mind when it comes to empowering your children with education, he also is probably one of the most well-read historians on the history of education that I've ever, really been exposed to. And I'm going to read a quote. And this quote is, I guess it'll be self-explanatory. So this is John Taylor Gatto. Mass schooling of a compulsory nature really got its teeth in the United States between 1905 and 1915, although it was conceived of much earlier and pushed for throughout most of the 19th century. Compulsory schooling on this continent was intended to be just what it had been for Prussia in the 1820s, a fifth column into the burgeoning democratic movement that threatened to give the peasants and the proletarians a voice at the bargaining table. modern industrialized compulsory schooling was to make a sort of surgical incision into the prospective unity of these underclasses, divide children by subject, by age grading, by constant rankings on tests, and by many other more subtle means, and it was unlikely that the ignorant mass of mankind, separated at childbirth, would ever reintegrate into a dangerous whole. Yeah. So, Gatto got it right. The public school system, what we take for granted these days wasn't always so. About 100 years old at this point. We're a lot older than that as a nation here in America. But the whole notion that our government should be the one teaching our children is something that is so just taken for granted. I mean, the indoctrination where the public school system is concerned is just abhorrent.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I don't call it, homeschool. I call any other form of schooling government schooling. People tell me, my kid goes to a good school. I'm like, yeah, well, government schools, some of them are good, some of them are bad. Most of them are bad. Oh no, I go to, I pay. He goes to Catholic school. Well, government still regulates what you're doing. Government still tells you what to do. Government, you're still teaching your child to be a cog in a machine, a spoke on a wheel.
Yeah.
It's from an era when the uber rich were really trying to get a grip of the population explosion here in the United States and the need for the industrialized worker, right? The factory worker.
Yeah.
And, and I don't want to make this a history lesson on the education system, but suffice it to say, the education system as we know it was not always around. I remember a few years ago when Ron Paul said he would do away with the Department of Education.
Yeah.
People were so it was like he was saying everybody should have to amputate a leg.
Yeah.
They couldn't even conceptualize not having a Department of Education. And for homes like ours, it wouldn't mean a thing. It wouldn't do a thing. So what you wind up getting in parents and the mindset of parents nowadays is that not only is the education of their children supposed to be done by the government, but it's a right, and it's something that the government has to answer to the parents to when it comes to the education of their children. I told a story a few episodes back when I remember taking the parents out of the room of the school.
Yeah.
And, we run martial arts schools. So, a common, aspect of a lot of schools is when the children are training, the parents are watching.
Yeah.
And we did away with that. And we took the parents, we just put them in a waiting room.
Yeah.
So the parents, wait, and the kids get to take their class, and distractions are gone, the focus, the performance, everything went up, and even the parents to some extent, they tend now to be a lot more social amongst each other,
which is good,
a lot less disruptive,
a lot more relaxed.
Yeah.
I would say.
It's like when you turn a shark upside down. It's like the parents are just floating in the waiting room with their bellies up.
I think they're dead when they're upside down.
Sharks. That too. But you never heard that? You turn the shark upside down?
I thought they died when you did that.
No. You turn them upside down. I'm not making the shit up.
I believe you.
I'm not just making that up.
I believe you 100%.
All right. So the parents, we would notice that's what that was like. So every once in a while, though, you'd have a parent that would come up and say, I bring my son here to watch him train. I can't be there and see what, you guys are doing every day. And they would make this big stink. And it would be like, and I'd answer, well, so what school does your son go to again? Yeah. When do you drop him off? Yeah. Government building? Yeah. Who are the people that are taking care of him all day? Oh, his teacher's name is, a teacher's one person. You telling me that one teacher is the only person that's watching? That teacher's assigned to your son all day?
Yeah.
Or is it a collection of people? Well, it's a collection. Well, You have no problem dropping your son off to a bunch of strangers to a government building every morning, but you're going to give me shit about sitting in the next room while I teach your son for 45 minutes?
Yeah.
So there's an inconsistency there. And you'll see that a lot with parents when it comes to schooling itself. There's just an inconsistency in what they think their responsibilities are, what they think the government's responsibility is. I was watching a few videos on this topic, and the test score debacle that's going on, Common Core, that debacle, and I came across a video from a few years ago, right? It's like 2000. I mean, a few years, like 2013 or something, not that long ago, and it was two people from Detroit being interviewed on Fox, and it was a Charlonda Buckman of the Detroit Parent Network, and some other guy, Tyrone something from the Board of Ed, the Detroit Board of Ed.
Tyrone Biggins.
I don't think it was Tyrone Biggins.
No.
Unless it was an older video than I thought.
I think it might have been like Wiggins. It was something close to Biggins.
All right. So whatever it was.
It's Tyrone Wiggins.
They're debating, and the whole thing was the children in Detroit at that time, this is 2 years ago, had just received like their national test scores back.
Yeah.
And this entire school district, the one that was, being debated about on the show, this entire school district exhibited scores that were the equivalent of if children had taken the test and just guessed at the answers.
Yeah, just completely guessed every answer.
Just give them the thing, the little circle,
and just
pencil,
have them draw a fucking picture.
Yeah, have them C all the way down, right?
Yeah.
And that's what their test scores were. And there was an interesting quote by this Charlonda Buckman. Now, what prompted them being brought on the show was her organization, the Detroit Parent Network. And remember, this is about 2 years ago. She made a statement that the teachers should be put in jail.
Yeah.
They should be held legally responsible for what they've done.
Correct.
And I'm sitting here listening to this like, ain't this some shit?
Yeah.
So not only is she not taking care of her fucking own kids, but by the way, educating them and allowing them to become educated is part of taking care of your children.
It is. Similar to feeding them.
Right. Yeah. It's beyond just wiping their asses and making them sandwiches. But not only was she, totally just doing away with her own obligation, but now she wanted to hold other people legally responsible.
Correct.
For educating them. And she had a quote, and this woman, her quote was, "The state has a responsibility to provide all kids with a quality education. When we don't properly educate our kids, we create pathways for them to go to jail.
Goddamn jail pathways.
If you don't teach my kids,
Yep.
don't blame him when he robs that bank.
And don't kill him either because he just wants money.
Don't kill him.
Just wants money, not worth anyone's
A
life.
mother should never have to worry about her son getting shot while robbing a store."
Yeah, that's what they say.
So, this woman's so delusional.
Yes.
And the guy on the other side of the debate, he was half an asshole too.
Yeah.
His whole thing, and Detroit was notorious, for its corruption and just. I mean, it was like a fucking. It was like Planet of the Apes, and
Yeah.
and just yelling, screaming, and I'll get called racist for that. I don't know why I couldn't think of another goddamn analogy, but whatever.
Well, it's ironic. The Planet of the Apes, their village is pretty organized.
Yeah, right. So worse than Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
Fucking Detroit.
Worse
That's their
than-
new T-shirt. Detroit.
Yeah, they had their
worse than Planet of the Apes.
Planet Apes had their shit together in the beginning.
Yeah, it's true. It's
Motherfuckers don't got nothing together.
true. Yeah. So it was just a clusterfuck, and you just see
Yeah.
they couldn't get out of their own way, and you see this around the entire country, with New York City. Here in New York City, Common Core is a big thing, a big topic now when it comes to education. And New York City, for one, is one of the places, or New York State is one of the places that implemented Common Core.
Yes.
And why? For about $700 million.
Yeah.
And
it's pretty good.
So there was the Obama administration's education initiative called Race to the Top. And you can't make this shit up.
Okay.
It's easy when you got attended. No,
Oh, that's funny.
So
He was like, all the black kids win.
He's like, finally. So
emancipation. Anyway,
so during his race to the top initiative, there was a shitload of money to be handed out.
sure.
And the Common Core initiative was pretty much pitched to the states, and it was implied and then made good on that those states that adopted the Common Core standards, or I guess joined the Common Core initiative, would find some grant money in their coffers from the Race to the Top initiative. And for New York, that meant $700 million.
It's not bad.
Now, the funny thing was with New York, and this, just goes to show the just hypocrisy and fraudulent behavior of the education system. New York actually committed to doing it before the standards were even written.
Oh, that's good.
So they were like, yeah, whatever.
They're like, what's the check say? Done.
Right, done. It's exactly right. And, when it comes to standards, and I don't want to make this a Common Core episode either, but it is to the greater point of the episode. When it comes to the government sticking its nose in education, it's always going to be about control.
Yeah.
It's the one thing the government will do is it'll find its way to become bigger. We have for the first time, and I remember too, Tom mentioned this, or had this observation during one of his episodes here. He said, this is the first time in history we have just professional politicians.
Yeah.
That do nothing but politics.
Yeah.
Right? They're not scholars, business people, leaders of communities. No, they're politicians. That's what they do.
Bureaucrats.
And we have dynasties, fucking monarchies, almost like, the Kennedy clan, the Bushes.
Yeah, that's true.
Jeb Bush, right? AKA Fredo. Fredo Bush.
Fredo Bush.
He's thinking about running for president.
Yeah.
Big Common Core supporter, by the way. And there's nothing good that's going to come out of this when the government's in it. So for Common Core, it's just a way, let's create something that on a federal level can be altered. And it's not a matter of, and you find the people that support it. We'll talk about one of them later. But they'll talk about, it's locally controlled and you guys can teach whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's just standards to make sure that everybody reports their information properly. And they make it sound so benign that you want to just tell them, all right, so we're good. So we don't need it then.
Yeah.
If it's so matter of fact and, regular, as you're saying,
so
common sense, like, we don't even need it then.
Yeah, so we're good. Thanks.
But it's
Thanks
obviously
anyway.
not the case.
No.
It's there's a reason they tell you not to, when you get pulled over by the cops, they say don't roll down all your windows, because you roll down all your windows, the cops are going to look at them. When they look at them, now if they want to find a PC, probable cause to pull you out of the car, inspect you, the windows open, and they see something suspicious, or they could validate something as being suspicious, you've basically given them the opportunity to do that. And Common Core, very much the same thing. When you allow the government to sort of stick its nose in, it further, I should say, to to the education of your child, it's a control that you should be fighting to keep from them.
100%.
Not sort of relenting so easily as so many parents have. Because it's another level, not only is, you're sending your child to a government school, but now you're letting the federal government have its say in what's going on. But okay, so in New York, we had, with the school system, to talk about the test scores.
Yeah.
Test scores in 2006, math scores, we'll stick with math.
Okay.
About 55% of the New York City students that took the standardized tests in math were found to be proficient.
Yeah.
That scaled up to 2009, where 70,
It's like 80.
about 80%.
Yeah, almost 83%.
Yeah, so let's say 82.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, so about 56 to about 82% from 2006 to 2009.
That's a good jump.
Right, it's a good jump, and it almost makes you want to be happy about almost 20% of the students, not being proficient in math, which is kind of part of it, it's kind of the other part.
Yeah.
But then it goes on a decline, and it goes all the way down to probably about 50% in 2010. And then it climbs up from about 50 to about 60 in 2012.
And then holy fuck.
And then it's like, boom, 2012 to 2013, it jumps all the way down to about 30%.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
And Common Core was introduced in 2013, and it's hovering about 34% now. And we're talking about math proficiency in New York City. So the whole thing is, as a parent, sitting by and watching politicians decide the education of your child. Because, by the way, during all of this time where, education is going up and down, your child's growing up.
Yeah.
You're losing time, you're losing years, you're losing opportunities.
Yeah, you're burning daylight.
And it's a sad state of affairs when, the average parent doesn't take this in consideration.
True.
So what I decided to do was, rather than sit here and say, parents, like, you got to take your kids out of school, because I've said that before, and by all means, hey, you want to do it, absolutely, let me know.
Yeah, it can be done, and it's not as scary as you think.
I have helped dozens of people personally start to homeschool their kids. Correct. We have a collection of people here at the Jungle Gym. People around the country. People contact me all the time asking me about it. And since I wrote the book, it's I'm one of the go-to guys for it.
True.
And I embrace the role completely.
Yep. 100%.
But we don't think that that's going to happen on a grand scale, or as grand a scale as I would like. At least not yet.
Yeah.
Once shit hits the fan and, we're all riding around the Mad Max mobiles, then you're not going to have a choice. But
true.
For now, what I decided to do was find a way to give, people a way to empower, the education of their children.
Give out some power.
Right. So I thought of 3 things to do now with your kids.
Legit.
Now, by the way, I think these are all things that you could also do for yourself. The application would obviously change, but these are solid.
Yeah.
And when people ask me, what can I do now? It's been a few years since I wrote the book, and chopping it down to just 3 solid things. These are the 3. So we're going to go over them.
Check.
After I take a little drink.
Cool. Yeah, this is a legit list.
So, number 1, learn about heroes of history.
Black history.
If you're black.
There you go.
If you're black.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Start with Shaka Zulu.
Shaka fucking Zulu.
Because he was a bad mamma jamma.
Yeah, that's a bad motherfucker.
So, learn about heroes of history. Now, what this does, it allows you to sort of check a bunch of boxes. And probably the most powerful of all, it's a great format for conversation.
Yeah. Between
you and your son or daughter. Now, when you're learning about heroes of history, you want to pick somebody who sort of captures the interest of your son or daughter, captures the morality, mindset, and customs and traditions of your family, your tribe. Those virtues that you want to reinforce and support. Who you choose and to put in the pedestal of hero is a huge factor in that.
Yes.
And in history, so you also get to allow your child to be introduced to the act of getting power, from the past.
Yeah.
So talk and learn about heroes from history. My sons, it's a big topic of conversation in my house. I've made videos of it before. Mythology.
Yeah.
In different cultures, gods and, the stories of different cultures throughout history. And, my 8-year-old Hayden, he's run with it to a level that I never even planned, and that's the great thing about it. When you capture their interest and you allow them to lead the way, you're the guide. You're there, and you're there to make sure that they stay on track. But you let them explore wherever they want to explore, and you support them. So, my son, he'll tell me, I like this god from this mythology. I like this god from this mythology. Only strong gods does he like. Good. Only strong gods. He knows about weak gods. We don't like weak gods in my house.
That's awesome.
But it's something that we're able to really have a great conversation about. There's so many things that we could sort of deal with as an offshoot of these types of talks. But it's a very, very powerful tool. So heroes in history.
Yeah, Isaiah's doing the same thing. He's getting into the everything mythology and all that stuff, and he's got Egyptian mythology books. They starting to look into that. So nice. He's getting into it. And he likes it. He writes reports.
Right.
Cool.
So, which leads us to number 2.
That wasn't by accident.
It was so not full of shit.
I was gonna say he writes reports and
he draws pictures. The face you made after you said it, right? Was the fuck.
No, I said what? Well, I'll watch the tape. We'll watch the tape.
Number 2.
Tape's right there.
Creative writing with illustrations.
Yep.
Creative writing with illustrations. Now, what does this do? It works on your handwriting.
Which is good.
It supports, it's necessary. It supports a voice, perspective, and identity for your child. They have an opinion.
Yeah.
Which is important. It allows them to sort of understand the relationship between writing and power. When you empower them to be able to do it themselves, in my experience, and it's a belief of mine, that they become more acclimated to picking power up through books.
Yeah.
When you allow them to write, you're able to work on grammar. You're able to work on spelling. You're able to do all those things almost like as a side, an aside. And that's the great thing about it. It's not, we're going to sit down like a bunch of fucking grammar Nazis and we're going to go over all these rules and it's going to be strict. And no, we're going to write it and I'm going to show you how to write it correctly.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
That everybody could read it.
Yeah.
And the whole motivation is, well, look, we're going to do it like this because if we don't do it like this, then, there are going to be people that may want to read your story and they're not going to be able to.
Yeah. And if you see that he can't form sentences, he can always get a job as the head of a district in Detroit.
So that was good pull. During the research, we had.
And you almost died, by the way.
You know what we're going to do?
We're
going to do more magic. I'm going to do more magic.
Magic it up.
So what you're about to see is a little news clip on the head of the school board in Detroit. Otis something.
Otis.
Just call him Otis.
Red fuck.
Just call him Otis.
Otis.
And Otis.
I can't write a fucking sentence.
Otis, who was determined to be illiterate, was the head of the school board in Detroit. I don't know why they never made it.
Yeah.
He wound up later on being brought up on charges of like fondling himself. He was like beaten off in a
He was doing
meeting
some
or something.
shit.
Oh my God.
He said that his brain worked with his mouth, but his fingers didn't work with his fingers. So maybe when he was touching himself. Anyway.
So we're going to segue into that right now. Watch this clip real quick. We'll be here when you get back. Boom.
Take him to Detroit. No, not Detroit.
Reading and writing are the fundamentals of education, but the president of the Detroit School Board says a learning disability has been a lifelong challenge for him. Fox News' Ron Savage reports from Detroit.
You survived. You made it. Now you're telling me people with disability cannot be leaders?
The president of the Detroit School Board is taking his licks for being unable to write a sentence that makes sense. His emails were published in the Detroit News and Free Press. Do DPS control the foundation or outside group? If an outside group control the foundation, then what is DPS board role with selection of is director? Are we mixing DPS and non-DPS roles? And who is the watchdog? As a child, Otis Mathis was placed in special ed.
So, of course, they put me in special ed, and my parents fought to get me out, but it set me back a half a year.
Mathis, a U.S. Navy veteran, is a math whiz. In high school, he took 4 years of algebra, 2 geometry, trigonometry, and calculus. He aced the college math exams, but he never had success writing sentences. A Wayne State professor told him he had a disability he would need to deal with.
She told me that, the way you talk, you don't even write the way you talk. So there's a disconnect in your brain, that through your vocal is, I can understand you. You make sense. But when that signal goes to your fingers to write, something happens.
Elected to the school board in January 2008, all the other school board members voted him in as president in January of this year. It's a 2-year term. School's emergency financial manager Robert Bobb told Fox 2 he's only concerned with Mathis' ability to get the job done, and he believes he's doing that. Mathis believes he's a role model for kids who are dealing with a learning disability.
So I think hopefully I am. When I was telling the kids for the 2 years in a special ed class of the earth and natural science, figure out a way to go around that wall, over that wall, under. Some people can go right through the wall. So I hope I am.
In Detroit, Ron Savage, Fox 2 News.
All right, so that was my man. And you can't make this up.
No.
The first time I saw that video, well, you were here.
Yes.
I couldn't breathe.
Yeah, I
could
you
not
had to
breathe.
pause it at the part where it
I had to
says
stop.
Head of school board is chastised for not being able to write a sentence that makes any sense. It was fucking hysterical. It'll pause it and be like, what are they talking about?
Oh, man. So, you know what? Don't be like Otis. All right. So we're still on number 2, creative writing with illustration. So you have your handwriting, you have grammar, you have creativity, you have an identity. They get to speak from a perspective. They get to have an opinion. A great sort of tool to develop, when having, conversations. Conversations, obviously, so important for the education of a child. But then I put illustrations. So why illustrations? Because you will find any great educational program understands the value of expressing one's identity and creativity in an abstract form. So all my kids have those little, I guess they used to look like Etch-a-Sketches, but the little drawing board.
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess it probably was more like a blackboard in the past generation, not an Etch-a-Sketch.
True.
But it looks like an Etch-a-Sketch because it's one of those little magnetic
and then it wipes.
things. Yeah, you slide the button on the bottom and it wipes it clean. Every one of my kids have one of those. And they always have because they write words, sentences, they draw pictures.
Yeah.
It is just a sort of sounding board for their creativity that I've managed to install in the culture of my home.
They draw a lot. There's some fucking cool drawings too.
All day, and they're incredible artists now. Hayden started off, he used to write these ninja, he used to draw these whole ninja things and just incredible stuff. So with the creative writing, you get so many of those things that I had mentioned. With the illustrations, you start to introduce art and them being able to express themselves creatively in a more abstract sense.
Yeah.
So it's a great relationship between the two. Obviously, the restrictive nature of grammatical creative writing is a great sort of complement to the freedom of being able to draw.
That's 100%. It's awesome.
And it could be pen on paper, it could be sculpting, it could be any form of art to illustrate what's going on in their creative writing. My sons, one of the things that they started early on was they all invented their own superheroes.
They did, yeah.
And so Hayden has his superhero universe, and like it is. I think when he gets older, this might be like a thing. Like that's how
he could do
sophisticated this whole world is, right? But all a product of this creative writing and illustrations. So the last thing, money and budgeting.
Yeah.
Now, kids got to learn math. They have to learn math. But why do they have to learn math? Well, we're adults. What do we use math for? A couple of different ways. I guess logic could be considered a form of math.
Yeah.
Or it is a form of math, but a more functional approach or a more typical assessment of, the math we use is usually relegated to money.
Yeah.
There are certainly other applications that we have, but if we're talking day to day, how do we use math? It's with money. It's with budgeting. It's what makes the world go round. I have great talks with my boys, obviously more so my older ones, about rent, about bills, about working and salaries, wages, taxes, the price of things in stores.
Yeah, that's good.
So these are things that they have to know about, because now when they say they want that toy, they want that book, it becomes a lot more concrete. You take the abstract nature of, I want this, can I have it? Oh, if you're good, if I'm good, am I good? Yes, you're good. I will get this for you. Where am I getting it from? What am I getting it with? So it allows you to be a little bit more reality based.
That's good.
In the nature of your exchanges, the nature of, the day-to-day operation of the home and what me and their mother does. So they have their little piggy banks and they have their little money, and
that's good. Yeah,
we use, and obviously the math, fractions, how many people in the Bronx? Oh my God, the fucking people in the Bronx. I remember, I think it was one of the teens. He's not here anymore, but a teen student. I said, give me $1 in quarters. And he asked me how many.
No.
And
you were like 6. He was like, cool.
And I said, it's a quarter. So he was like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, how many?
So I said, you know what a quarter is? Yeah, it's the coin. 1 quarter, 1/2, 1/8. Do you know what a quarter is? He's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
How old was he?
15, 16.
What the fuck? That's insane.
And used to, I'm not going to even say it. I'm not going to say it. But one of our former teen students.
Yes.
He, he just a disconnect. And why? Because his parents, like so many parents, and not saying that it's an either or thing, but the sort of bottom of the barrel parents are the ones that just ship their kids off and they don't give a fuck.
They're happy to be rid of them.
Like they don't care. And this is a product of it. 15, 16-year-old kid didn't know that a quarter meant a quarter, as in fourths and whatever.
Yeah, that's bad.
So money and budgeting, this resolves all of that.
It does.
You talk to your kids about dimes, the combination of coins, and
yeah, that's good.
And you give them little chores, and you're able to give them their little allowance. And my wife has this great thing in the house that she found it somewhere, because she's always looking up new ways to make the kids' experience more powerful. It's a chore thing where they all, and I've spoken before, like yellow is like it's like our arch enemy in my home,
it's
right?
The kryptonite.
And she has this whole chore list, and each kid has their own chores. And at the end of the day, or during the course of the day, when they do their chores, they're able to take, it's like a clothespin that is on yellow in the morning. When they're done with all of it, they get to turn it over, and it's their favorite color. So each one of my kids has like their favorite color.
That's awesome.
And if at the end of the day the thing's still yellow, you're berated and mocked.
Nice.
Right? So it's like you're a loser if you don't do your job, right?
Yeah.
So
consequences.
Right. So
accountability.
They do that, and they'll get they'll either be paid with money or toys, or they understand that everybody chips in and everybody gets to reap the benefits because they're chipping in. So this whole crazy notion of having to work for the shit you have,
that's crazy.
Being introduced,
you have to earn everything.
Yeah, it's true.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. So
legit.
So the 3 again, learn about heroes of history, have those conversations, choose the heroes wisely. One of the things we do in sales all the time is, when you want to sort of not not have a conversation like you want to make a meeting with somebody. You know, what time's good for you? And then it becomes, well, I don't know. I got this. It's all right. Well, I can meet this time or this time. Which one's better?
Yeah.
It's like, boom, you cut right to the chase. Well, the same concept should be applied to the heroes you're picking.
True.
You know, find heroes that you're kind of sort of pre-qualified.
Yeah.
And then ask them, tell them a little bit about them, find out what they want to learn about. Next thing you know, you're learning about history and land and, talking about ancient Greece with my sons. We got to talk about the continents and the oceans and so many things just that started off with a cool story about a hero.
Yeah.
Which
is awesome.
Yeah. So that's number one. Number two, creative writing with illustrations. This is where you help them out with their grammar. You give them confidence. You allow them to have a voice. You also have them illustrate these stories. Why? Because it teaches them the abstract value or the value of being able to express themselves in an abstract way through art. And it could be any way. They could illustrate it by drawing it, by, painting, sculptures, carvings, who knows? Get creative. Whiteboard, absolutely. And it's been a huge tool for my kids at home. And, just a reminder before we go to number three, these are all things that you could do with your kids, even though they go to school.
Yeah, you could.
So this is a supplement. I'm not going to do the whole take your kids out of school and homeschool immediately. I've done it before. I'll probably do it again, but it's not what I'm doing now. So number three, money and budgeting.
Yeah.
It's how the world goes around. We know it. With all the things my parents prepared me for, one of the things they did not prepare me for was money.
Yeah.
I saw my father work. I knew that I had to work. The work ethic I certainly got out of my parents.
Yeah.
But like credit and bills and checking accounts, holy shit.
Yeah.
So these are things that you get to talk to your kids about, preemptively.
That's good.
So that's a pretty cool list, I think.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
All right, so let's go to the mantelpiece. Now, the mantelpiece was a book I read. I'll be honest, I listened to the audiobook. But usually when I listen to the audiobook, I buy the hard copy and keep it, just as a reference. So this actually hasn't really been opened. But
that's cool.
But it's Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire. He's a Brazilian educator, activist. And this book, let's do a little shout out, Kisa Davison.
Okay.
SBG of Montana.
Nice.
During a conversation about homeschooling and education, she brought it up and asked me if I had ever heard of the book. And maybe I had in passing, but really had no interest in reading it. And she told me to do so, and I was very glad that I did. And Paulo Freire, he's the guy that's, I would say, speaking to the slave of the slave morality. He's speaking to the oppressed. He talks about education being inherently political. He talks about allowing people to sort of find their own voice and empower themselves, and dealing with oppression. Being a Brazilian, he got to comment on, the things that he experienced in that, once struggling, probably still struggling country.
Yeah.
But it was an incredible book with incredible insight and so many powerful things regarding education and the mindset. Now, some of the things, I don't agree, with him on, but I almost shouldn't have to say that because that should be the case with almost everything.
100%.
But it was an incredible book. I'm glad I read it. And that's the one thing I pull out when I tell people, because when I say, get out of the way when it comes to teaching your kids, it's because you understand as soon as you choose a way to do it, it is your choice. It is your filter.
Yeah.
It is the politics of you being now passed on,
correct,
to the next generation from teacher to student. So I would tell you guys, it's not a long read. It's a very, very popular book. Millions of books have been sold. I don't know in how many languages it's written, but it's well worth a read.
Nice.
All right. So
awesome.
Pedagogy of the Oppressed.
Legit.
So now,
yes.
and Kisa Davison shout out.
Yeah. Awesome.
We're not going to mention Travis, though.
No.
Well, I guess I just did. It was Keisha that told me about the book.
Yes, it was.
So shout out to her. Okay, so pressure player.
Yeah.
Now, the pressure player is another educator. So far, we've gotten some good ones. You know, we've got Gatto, John Taylor Gatto.
Yep.
Always a favorite. Paulo Freire. Remarkable book. Remarkable mind. Now we're going to talk about an author who wrote some cool books. Man, awesome. That's not good. Cool books. That makes it sound like he wrote a fucking comic.
Like, cool, bro.
No, like, awesome book, man.
That's such a cool book. This
is a guy who wrote a incredible book, incredible couple of books. The one book that I'm a fanatical, supporter of is Teach Your Own. And the guy's name is John Holt.
John Holt.
Like Colt with an H.
I see.
So John Holt, in his Teach Your Own, he is a proponent for the unschooling method of homeschooling. I follow an unschooling method of homeschooling. And, without getting into the too many specifics of the book or the schooling method of unschooling, as contradictory as that sounds, I'm going to just read a quote, all right,
sure.
from Teach Your Own by John Holt. And it'll give you some insight into, what are some of the motivators for an unschooling home or unschooling parent. And I quote, "Real social change is a process that takes place over time, usually quite a long time. At a given moment in history, 99% of a society may think and act one way on a certain matter, and only 1% think and act very differently. In time, that 1% may become 2%, then 5%, then 10, 20, 30%, until finally it becomes the dominant majority, and social change has taken place."
That's legit.
Right. So we always talk about, pressure to power. We always talk about, becoming more masculine, taking on the responsibility and the challenge of reclaiming the identity of, that's based in strength.
Yeah.
Well, who are we speaking to if not those people that need to make these transformations? If I only had conversations with super powerful men, how am I going to inspire anybody?
True.
How am I being anything other than maybe selfish? So the whole point of this movement is to get people up and moving.
Yeah.
And
get them moving.
And what better way to sort of plant the seeds for the future than with the reclamation of our children's education?
That's a good place to start as any.
I'm not going to tell you to take your kids out of school and start homeschooling.
Of course not.
Of course not. I've already said that before. I'll say it again, but I'm not saying it now.
No.
What I'm saying now is, what is going into the minds of your children should be at the top of your priority list as a parent.
It should.
And John Holt's book, Teach Your Own, is an incredible book to sort of allow you to develop that mindset. Between John Taylor Gatto and John Holt, as a parent, you need almost nothing else. Everything else is just resources.
Correct.
And this is the Star Trek age.
Yeah, you can fucking find anything.
Anything.
Any information you want.
Anything. So I always implore people to allow their children to explore the internet, to allow them to read whatever they want, to allow them to, never lie to your kids.
Yeah.
I've always done that, for my children. Yeah. I make sure they're not watching porn by accident. I make sure they're not talking, to some creepy dude in Wisconsin, through the internet,
Which is, that's fucked up.
Right. But the whole thing is, allowing your children to follow what they're passionate about and follow what they love and use that as sort of fuel for their learning machine, their natural innate learning machine. It's a strategy that I've been doing for over 8 years at this point.
Yeah,
And
it's been working great.
and it's been working incredibly. All right, so pressure player John Holt, Unicorn, this fucking lemon.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Former Education Secretary William Bennett, William the sellout, write me a check and I'll say what you want, Bennett.
Yes.
This fucking lemon. This guy was Reagan's education secretary.
Okay.
And I'm researching for this episode and I'm going over a lot of Common Core stuff, right? And I come across a debate from a few days ago between him and the Texas governor Riggs.
I don't know.
What's his name? Gregory.
Fuck.
It's not fuck.
No, it's not fuck. But
Why don't you look it up instead of just cursing for no reason?
yeah, it was on the tip of
Dropping
my tongue.
F-bombs. We're talking about education. We're talking about a governor, a respectable gentleman of the Lone Star State.
Yes.
I got a lot of friends in Texas. Shout out to my buddies in Texas. Got Guru Harley down there.
Yep.
All right.
Bill.
My boy Mike Blackgrave talking the other day, talking about those liberals in Austin. I see you, Austin. Nobody from Austin is listening to this podcast.
You know?
No. I love Texas, man. Every time I go to Texas, I have a good time. San Antonio was great.
Greg Abbott. Yeah.
All right. So,
Right,
Bill,
that's the one. Bill Bennett versus Greg Abbott in heated Common Core debate.
Yeah, that would be the one, Pat.
Cool. Just making sure.
Is that the one? No, that's the other one they had.
Hey, who knows? The guy might be fighting everyone. He's a fucking prick.
Fucking guy.
Greg Abbott. What happened?
So, in their debate, Greg Abbott is the governor of Texas, and he's saying, "Look, Texas has banned Common Core."
Yes, he's like,
You know,
fuck
which
Common
is
Core.
great.
You're not
And,
allowed in Texas.
And he's there, and you have the counterpoint, and this is like on a Fox like Sunday show,
Okay.
and you have Bill Bennett there, charismatic guy, older, fat dude,
Yeah. Frog voice.
little froggy voice, but you could tell very comfortable. You could tell he's been around for a minute.
Yeah, he doesn't give a fuck.
And he's talking, and he's a supporter of Common Core, and I see he's the former, education secretary and charismatic guy, well spoken. So I want to hear what he has to say. I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
well, why is this guy supporting Common Core? He knows it's got to be bullshit. So he's going on and saying, Common Core, it's just misunderstood. There's so much misinformation out there. Why do we want our kids not to learn, basic arithmetic, and he's just going on and on. And he gives the argument, which as I'm watching the video, I'm like, oh, so I guess we don't need Common Core because everything you're saying Common Core is what we already do.
Yeah.
Right. So if it's such common sense, then let's fucking do away with it. It's not the case.
No.
So Greg Abbott is going on and saying, it's nonsense. It's control. It's everything that I say it is.
Yeah.
I'm in complete agreement with him, and they agreed to disagree at the end of their conversation.
Sure.
So upon further research, I'm like, this isn't sitting right with me.
Yeah,
I gotta
not
find
adding
out
up.
what's going on. And it turns out this fucking schlub,
Yep.
he's a paid lobbyist.
There you go.
He's being paid to propagate the nonsense and the spin for Common Core.
As long as the check clears.
Right. And then you did a little bit more research.
Yeah.
And what'd you find?
So turns out 2003 there was some, or 2013 I forget. But there was 2003. There was some sort of controversy that he went to Las Vegas and was fucking a big time gambler and lost a ton of money. Now it turns out that he allegedly, and his wife said this, all their bills are paid and he's not going to gamble anymore. But at first he was kind of pushing on the rug. But then when it came out, he was like, "Oh, I quit gambling. I'm not going to gamble."
Right. So he was a guy that had written a book, and he talks about self-discipline. And he talks about all these different things. And then, he's a gambler, an addicted gambler.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there talking about Common Core when he's getting checks cut for it.
He's probably then going to Vegas and
Right. So it's just an insincere piece of shit, dude, because there's going to be people that don't know that he's getting paid for it. And they're going
just
to
wants
listen to
money.
what he's saying, and You know, they're going to trust him. Why are they going to trust him? Because he looks like he's the kind of guy you trust. He looks like somebody gave Santa a clean shave.
That's funny.
Right?
I don't trust that motherfucker when I look
Well,
at
you
him.
don't trust anybody, neither do I. But
True.
the average person, you know, it may happen. You see that he
Yeah.
was a former, you know, education secretary. You know, if I hear the former education secretary of the country is debating an educational topic with the governor of Texas,
Yeah.
I'm probably going to go with the former education secretary, all the other things being equal.
Yeah. Grandpa Billy.
Right. So it's one of these things where, you know, fuck, man, like you're a piece of shit.
Yeah. You're a shill.
You're a shill. You're a shill. Fucking shill. I don't say that enough. Stop calling people shills.
That's good.
So, Bill Bennett, man, you are a unicorn.
Yes.
You are a unicorn. All right, Pat, we covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it was good.
Break it down.
All right. So if you have your son or daughter in a state institution, start looking at other options. Now, we're not saying you have to pull them out. We're not saying that. MC didn't say that. I didn't say that. You don't have to, but you should. Beyond that, no, what you should really do is, let's say you're nervous, right? You're scared. There's fear. There's, you don't know what to do.
Just pull them out for a day.
Yeah, why not? You could totally do that. Or you know what you could do? How about you start in the summer? Start working with them in the summer. Start doing some of this stuff we're talking about. Start opening their minds up to the potential that they have and not what someone else tells them they have. Kind of give them the tools to say, listen, what do you want to learn about this summer? And see what they do and see how well they do, how much they thrive. And at that point, I don't think you're going to put them back in school. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at it.
Well said. So when it comes to education, too many people think that it's something that somebody gives us. You know, I gave him an education. I educated him. I taught him. I gave him the information. You know, we even, you know, at times use the metaphor of the cup, you know.
Yeah.
Come to me as an empty cup. You know?
That's funny.
But it's nonsense. It's nonsense. It's not your cup.
No.
It's their cup. Let them fill it how they want to fill it. Support them, but get out of their way. Having conversations is the absolute foundation of my homeschool education with my boys. It's all about the conversation. I work a lot. My wife does an incredible job with the boys. Shout out to Samantha. But for me, it's all about, all right, so when I'm interacting with my sons, are we talking about things of worth, you know? Or are we just watching stupid cartoons and, oh man, I hate when I walk in somebody's house and their kid's sitting down, you know, he's eating Fruity Pebbles or some shit. He's watching SpongeBob.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, you know, you're not doing it right. And you don't have to be perfect, but you got to try. You got to try. And it's so easy to homeschool because they're kids. They already have the fuel. They have the engine. They have everything they need. They are a self-contained unit. It's your job to just allow them to go. Yeah. Support them. Keep them on track. But you don't got to drag them. All right? I always talk about, who was I coaching the other day? I was talking to a little guy, right? And he was having an issue with one of the 3-year-olds in class.
Okay.
And he was saying, you know, no matter what I was trying, I couldn't get him to do it. I couldn't get him to sit up. I couldn't get him to listen. Couldn't get him to go over here. Couldn't get him over there. And I said, did you quit? You know, well, no, I kept on, you know, I'm setting him up, obviously. And I told him, I said, you ever watch The Dog Whisperer? So he had. And I said, you know, whenever Caesar, so gay Mexican ass, is walking around, right? He's walking a dog that refuses to be walked. He does an incredible thing. He doesn't drag the dog, because if any of you guys have a dog, you already know, you know what this is like. The dog doesn't want to walk. You yank, it sits his ass even lower. You yank more, you will drag that dog, right? On its side if need be. When it doesn't want to go, it doesn't want to go. Why? I don't fucking know. I don't speak dog.
True.
But what Cesar Millan does is he takes the tension off. and he just nudges it a little bit. He nudges, and eventually he convinces the dog that, yeah, I want to go this way.
Yeah.
And then that's how the dog goes. I told him to do that. I told the little guy to do that, and he did, and it worked. So I would say that when it comes to educating your children, at worst, it's going to be that. It's going to be nudging them, and the more solid this culture is in your home, the easier it's going to be moving forward. So easy, in fact, that you may even pull them out of the government institution in which you have them being brainwashed currently. Thank you, folks, for listening to this episode. This is our second episode dedicated to education. I'm telling you right now, it won't be our last. It's a topic that I'm very, very passionate about. We're both, homeschooling dads, not of the same home, even though we're from New York.
True,
we have our own wives and kids and all that stuff.
Yes, this is true.
But this is a topic that we feel very strongly about.
Yeah, 100%.
So we do appreciate you guys hanging out and listening to the episode. Leave your comments. Questions. I always welcome questions, especially about, homeschooling and educating your kids. Leave them on the YouTube video. A lot of you guys participate on the Facebook page, which is good. You can go to masterchim.com and it brings you to that. But put some comments on the YouTube page. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube page, and I'll be certain to answer any of your questions. ThePressureProject.com is our website. info@thepressureproject.com is our contact email. YouTube.com/The Pressure Project is our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe. Obviously, we're still on iTunes, and it's how most of you are listening right now. Look at the stats, and it's probably like 90-10 for the audio version of the podcast.
That's correct.
So we appreciate you guys, taking the time out to listen. But aside from that, thanks again. We look forward to speaking to you on the next episode. And as always, brothers, pressure to power.